All right, so I've got my size 11.0 petal colored seed beads pre-strung onto 26 gauge copper core wire, and I'm using a light pink color to match my beads as closely as I can. And I've got some light green beads set over to the side, and I'm ready to start the flowers for my dame's rocket. Now the pattern we're going to be working is 4 2-row continuous wraparound loops using 11 beads for the starting loop. Now before I start making my loops, I'm actually going to add 4 of these green beads onto the end of my wire. And then I'm going to make a little loop right in the end, just so they don't fall off. And then I'm going to slide down 2 of the petal colored beads. Let me refocus here. Alright, I'm going to slide down 2 of the petal colored beads with those green ones. I'm going to move them to the end and just kind of forget that they're there. Alright, now we're going to measure out about a 3-inch tail wire. And then we're going to make the starting loop for our first petal. And I said we need 11 beads. Alright, so I've counted out 11 beads, and I'm going to fold them in half. And I'm going to pinch and hold that row of beads right between my thumb and forefinger so that no gaps form between any of the beads. And then I'm going to twist the 2 wires below, just 1 or 2 full rotations. And that is our starting loop. And I need 2 rows per petal, so I need 1 more row of beads around. And with continuous wraparound loops, you're going to wrap them around the starting loop. So I'm going to push my beads down tight against the bottom of that wire. I'm going to hold tension on that row of beads, and then I'm going to rotate that starting loop as I wrap this row of beads around. And then I'm going to measure the beads I need to reach that wire below. And since this is the last row of beads, I'm going to wrap twice, very tight and close together, to tie off that petal. Alright, so we've got 1 petal made and we need 3 more. I'm going to count out 11 more beads for the next starting loop. And I'm going to leave just a very small space of wire below those beads. The wire is going to be about the same distance between this loop and the bottom of the petal. And I'm going to hold that tightly in place so that wire doesn't shrink at all. And I'm going to fold those beads in half. And then twist 1 or 2 full rotations. And then I'm going to make the second row on this petal as well. I'm going to turn my starting loop at a 90-degree angle from the first one just to keep this wire below it very straight. And then I'm going to rotate that petal as I wrap the row of beads around. And then measure the beads I need to reach that bottom wire. And I'm going to wrap twice. To secure that second petal. Alright, so I've got 2 petals and I need 2 more. So again, we're going to leave a very small space in the wire, just enough to make the wraps. I'm going to pinch and hold, fold, and twist. Bring more beads down from my spool, hold them tight, keep tension on that row of beads as you rotate. And I am going to pull pretty tightly on this this row of beads to make sure that it is pretty tight and snug around that starting loop. Measure the beads to reach the bottom. And then wrap twice tightly below. Alright, we need 1 more petal. Alright, so I've completed the 4 petals that I need for my flower. Now just like we left these beads at the beginning on the beginning tail wire, we're going to repeat that on the end tail wire. So I'm going to cut, we only need about 2 inches on this side. 2 inches of tail wire. Oops, I was supposed to leave 2 beads on there. Alright, so I need 2 pink beads on that wire, and then for the light green. Alright, so I've got that same pattern of beads on each of our tail wires. And I'm going to make a loop in this end just so none of those beads fall off. And then I'm going to close my petal unit just by wrapping one of the wires. I'm using the working wire, and I'm going to wrap around that first petal that we made just one time. And I am not going to twist these together just yet. We're going to do that during assembly. So at this point you are complete with your flower. If you're making a small stem, you'll need 18 of these flowers, and if you're making the larger stem, you'll need 25. So I've got my size 11 light green seed beads strung onto 30 gauge copper core wire, and we are ready to make our stamen. Now the pattern for the stamen is a single 1/8 to 1/4 inch twisted fringe with 2 beads at the top of the fringe. So I'm going to count out the 2 beads I need for the top of my fringe, and I'm going to move them close to the end of my tail wire. And I'm going to fold the 2 wires, the one on this side and the one on this side, together below those 2 beads, and I'm going to hold those 2 beads between my thumb and forefinger so they don't move around. Then with my other hand, I'm going to take those 2 beads and I'm going to twist them so that I twist those 2 wires below them. And I'm going to continue twisting down until the little twisted stem below my beads is 1/4 of an inch or 1/8 of an inch. You don't really need to measure that either. That measurement isn't super important. You just really want enough twists so that your beads aren't going to come off and it's not going to come untwisted if you were to pull on it. Now I have this little tiny tail of wire here, and I'm just going to clip that off. And then I'm going to cut about 2 inches of working wire here. And then on the end of this wire, I'm going to add 2 of the petal colored beads, which for me is pink, and then 4 of the mint green beads. And then you'll just make a small loop in the end of your wire so that those loose beads won't fall off. And there we have a finished stamen. If you're making the small stem for the Dame's Rocket, then you'll need to make 18 of these. And if you're making the large stem, you will need 25.